This next chapter in your life is titled You. It's time that you learn how to prioritize you. You learn how to love you and you build a relationship with you. So in this video, I'm going to give you 5 things that I currently do or I did to build a relationship with myself. The first one, self-care. And I know we hear about this a lot. Oh, self-care Sunday and self-care this and self-care that. But I think there's a differentiation between self-care and taking care of oneself. Meaning, self-care are things that you do for you. So just because you get your nails done, just because you get your hair done, just because you get all of these done, a lot of times people take that as self-care. And a lot of those individuals we see and we assume, well, they must really love themselves and they must really care about themselves because they keep themselves done up. But that doesn't truly mean they care about themselves, because it's so easy to book an appointment, right? You go on a website, you book an appointment, you go and get your nails done, you go and get your hair done. It's a lot harder having to do a lot of these things for yourself. Now, I'm not telling y'all to go out here and start doing your own hair and nails and all those other things, but I think it is imperative that you start doing things in your life that you can only do for you, and they're proving to you that you care about you. So maybe this may be you doing an at-home facial 2 nights a week. Maybe this may mean, you doing some kind of ritual with yourself. Maybe it's you intentionally eating healthy. A lot of times we think self-care is also the basic necessities. Oh, well, I cook for myself. Oh, well, I clean and I do all these things. And that's great. But it's also, what do you do for yourself that you normally don't have to do? That's what I think self-care is. It's taking care of the inner you. It's taking care of a soothing you, but it's you doing it yourself. So it's not just you booking an appointment. It's not just you hiring a service or getting someone to do something and cook for you and telling yourself, okay, well, I take care of myself. That's my self-care. No, it's not. That's taking care of oneself, but that is not self-care. And I think especially once we start getting busy, and especially, when you start making more money and things like that, it's so easy to get services booked for you. It's so easy to get people to do things for you. And a lot of times that makes us lose ourselves. And we don't have a relationship with ourselves because we're constantly getting someone else to do it. Imagine you being in a relationship with someone, and anytime you told them that you wanted something, they booked something to have it done. At first it's kind of nice, like, okay, well, they always make sure I have this done and they always make sure I have that done. But then after a certain amount of time, it's like, am I just another expense to you? Because all you do is just pay for something. You don't go out of your way. You don't take your time. You don't show me that you care about me. And your body is saying the same thing. Yourself is saying the same thing. You need to take care of me. There are certain things that you need to take time out of your day and put me first. The same way we expect in relationships for people to, put us before others sometimes, or for people to acknowledge us and care about us, you need to do the same thing with yourself. And self-care doesn't always have to mean beauty services and things like that and keeping up with your image. I think that's another thing that messes people up with self-care. It's supposed to be about caring about oneself. So for example, for me, one of my things of self-care is reading a romance book. I've been into romance books really heavy lately. And sometimes when I'm having a long day, or sometimes that's when I'm at work thinking about, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get home and read this book and finish this chapter. Like, for me, that's self-care. That's how I take care of oneself. That's how I soothe myself. And I think it's imperative for you to figure out what is your self-care, because you don't have a relationship with yourself because you're doing things based upon other people's self-care. And maybe for some people, their self-care is, doing a facial. Maybe for some people, their self-care is, sitting in the tub, drink your wine, whatever the case may be. But it's so easy to see these things on social media and for us to do them because it's like, oh, that's self-care. If you type in self-care on TikTok or on Pinterest, you're going to see all these pictures and these videos of girls with face masks, and they have the candles on, they have all these things. And so it's easy for us to assume, oh, that's self-care. No, that's caring for Ashley. That's care for Jennifer. That's care for Shonda. That's not care for you. And I think that's one thing I had to do as well, figure out what is self-care for me. And sometimes it may be me wanting to do a facial. Sometimes it may be me wanting to, do something beauty. But sometimes self-care for me is literally sitting on my porch and reading a book. And sometimes it's a plethora of other things, but I think knowing what your self-care is important, because when you're going through stress times, when you're going through, times just feeling down, it's like, at least I have this thing and this can soothe me. No matter if I have $1 million in my bank account or I have $1 in my bank account, I know there are certain things that is going to make me feel good about me. And that's what I think to be self-care, caring for yourself. The second one, journaling. And I know some of y'all are gonna be like, oh my gosh, everybody talks about journaling. How does journaling build a relationship with yourself? It acknowledges you. The thing is, I always tell people when building a relationship with yourself, think about it as any relationship that you have with anybody else. So for example, if you and your friend have a problem, you and your friend have, it doesn't even necessarily always have to be a problem. It's just you're having a conversation. Wouldn't you want acknowledgement? Wouldn't they want acknowledgement? How does acknowledgement work? First, you have to tell me what you're going through. We have to speak about this thing. And then there usually is some kind of changes made. Because if I didn't want you to change something, I wouldn't have even said anything about it. I wouldn't even have brought it up. The difference between ourselves is that we don't acknowledge how we feel because we assume it's us, so that it's already acknowledged. For example, there are some individuals right now who have been going through certain problems, right? And they've been continuously going through these problems, but they just keep it inside. They do not put it out. They do not tell anyone. They do not do anything essentially about it, and they think that's acknowledgement. Well, I acknowledged it because I thought about it. But once you put things on paper, it changes things. First and foremost, I think it's therapeutic because it lets that thing out. But then I think that it actually allows you to acknowledge it because you can go back and look at that thing and say, I was going through this, that. Then you have the choice to either do something to change it or stay in the same place. But if you do not let out the things that you are feeling, if you do not acknowledge essentially the things that you are feeling outside of yourself, sometimes pouring those things out, it's like they never happened. And I noticed that with myself because when I would journal and I would go back to my journal, I've been trying to do it more often, but I've been doing it on and off for a few years now. And I can go back to my journal and see the times that I've been in situations and see the times where I dealt with things. And I can ask myself, what did I do differently? How did I get myself out of that situation? How did I do that thing? And it allows me to look back at it. Because if I was to ask you, what was your biggest problem last month? Most people have to really sit there and think. And then some people would get it wrong. They'll be like, oh, it was this. And they'll be like, oh, wait, no, it was that, right? You weren't even really able to acknowledge that thing because you can't even remember. Think about all the things that you've been through in the past 5 years. Some of the things that you cried about. Some of the things that you were so sad about, frustrated about, or even happy about. But you can't even remember a handful of those things. So can you really say you acknowledge them? Can you really say you came to terms with them, whether good, bad, or happy, sad? Or you just felt them in the moment and just assumed because you thought that thing that was enough. And I realized that's how I need to build a relationship with myself too. The same way we have friends, we can recount when we had memories together. We can recount things that we did together. Our bodies, our minds want the same thing for us, but we're so much on autopilot of going to work, of going to school, of having kids, of doing all these other things that we never acknowledge ourselves. And so journaling has been a practice for me where it's like I'm just really just acknowledging me. I'm acknowledging how I feel. I'm acknowledging, and I'm also giving myself the choice to either change it or keep going. Because the same thing happens in relationships, right? People get ultimatums all the time. Either you stop doing this or we're going to be done. Either you stop doing that or so and so is going to happen. It happens in every relationship, everything that we have in life. But when it comes to ourselves, we never acknowledge ourselves because we assume because I think it, I must know it. And that's not necessarily how it always goes. So I definitely recommend people to start journaling. I promise you, it's a great thing to look back at. It's kind of like a time capsule, if you will, but it allows me to acknowledge the things that I felt in that moment, remember those things, and it allows me to have a better choice and see some of the things that I've been through, and also sometimes correlate them to the things that I'm going through and use that to help me as well, because it's so easy to forget about things. And going off of journaling, I recommend writing down your problems on a monthly basis. Another thing that we often don't do is we run away from our problems because it's so easy to do that, especially when we don't have to tell people about them and we don't have to, put them out there on Front Street. It's so easy to run away from your problems. And problems can be big, such as you got to pay for something that has to go for your new place, or you have to pay taxes, or you have to, something you have to do, or it could be something small, such as you just want to tell somebody something, but you're like, I don't know how they're going to react to this. I don't know how this is going to make them feel. But I usually say it's a problem if it's something that keeps coming up and it's something that you haven't expressed yet. So like you keep thinking about doing this thing, or you keep thinking about this thing to change, right? In context to someone else, right? You want them to do something differently, but you haven't said anything about it yet. And I think it's great going off of journaling because it shows you on a consistent basis, what have you actually moved on from? What have you actually done? And also it like allows you to be honest with yourself of who do you prioritize? Do you prioritize your problems or do you prioritize other problems? And this one I do it more so on a list. It's not really journaling. I just write a list of what are my biggest problems for the month. You could do it at the beginning of the month, you could do it at the end of the month, you could do it in both. But I try to do this in a way to allow myself to. I mentioned it on my previous video when I said build a relationship with yourself, build a resume with myself in the sense of showing myself, hey, but you did this, hey, but you did that. And for some people that helps because you can physically see it, but then also it helps me acknowledge the things that I'm running away from as well. It actually makes me look inward and ask myself why, because it's so easy to say something is small, but then when you haven't done it, it makes you ask yourself, if you're trying to say this thing is so small, oh, I just have to do this. Well, why haven't you done it yet? What about you do you need to change to become the kind of person that does this thing? Or what about you do you need to change to make sure you don't have this problem again? Because also you could look back at your biggest problems in a month. I would say about 5. You could do 3 to 5, right? And you'd be like, wait, the same problem I had in January, the same problem I had in February, the same problem that I had in March. So I need to change something. Something needs to be changed. Because like I said, going back to relationships that you have with other people, if somebody keeps saying to you, January, February, March, April, I have a problem with you. You keep doing this, you keep doing that, and it keeps being the same problem, that's going to not be a good relationship. That's even one we would call a toxic relationship, right? Because it's like you keep staying in a situation that's not beneficial for you. You keep staying in a situation that's not helpful for you. But you're doing the same thing to yourself. But the thing is, going back to the journaling, you're not acknowledging it because you're never letting it come out of you. And you just assume that you're going to remember this thing. And sometimes we do that as well because we don't want to acknowledge it. So we just say, okay, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But then subconsciously, you're trying to push it out of your brain. Subconsciously, you're trying to push it out of your thoughts because you don't want to think about that thing. Because when we deal with our problems, it causes us to a lot of times level up. It causes us a lot of times to, I guess one would say, be different than who we truly are, who we truly think we are. It causes us to sometimes reach capabilities that we don't even think we could reach. And it's scary. It definitely is scary, but it's one thing that I do tell individuals, like keeping a list of your biggest problems on a month to month basis and also trying to get rid of them, like crossing them off. It's not a thing of, oh, I just want to be here and have all these problems. And no, the goal is to get to smaller and smaller problems. The goal is to start achieving things. The goal is to see the difference in a year also of your problems, right? What were problems for me in January are not problems for me now in September. But I wouldn't have known that if I didn't want to write them down and acknowledge them. And also, I wouldn't be able to see my growth in my problems and see the differentiation because it's so easy to dwell on things and feel like, oh, this is a problem, that's a problem, and lose sleep over it. But then sometimes we are in our blessings. We are dealing with problems for things that we kind of prayed for. You wanted to make more money, and now you got to deal with the things that come with more money. You wanted to live in a better neighborhood, so now you got to deal with the things that come with a better neighborhood. But it's so easy when we don't acknowledge the problems that we had last year or 2 years ago because we don't really remember them to feel like what we're going through now is so bad. But if you look in the past, you see you prayed actually to be here. You cried actually to be here. You manifested, you believed to be here. But we don't remember those things. And so that causes us to not have a good relationship with ourselves because it's just we put ourselves to the wayside. Number 4, creating boundaries. This one is so important because it shows you who you put first and it shows you what you really care about. And I'm not going to lie, one thing that I've recently done now that I'm working, I've had to create a lot of boundaries and I realized I didn't have boundaries before. And it's so easy when you're just living life not to have boundaries because it's like what you have to have a why behind your boundaries. That's the only way they're gonna stick. That's the only way they're gonna be. So before, right, when I was a full-time content creator, I had 24 hours in a day to create content. It was so easy for somebody to call me and me to be like, oh, I am supposed to be shooting content, but I still got all day, so I can stay on the phone with them. Or me to see something on social media and just scroll on my For You page mindlessly, doom scrolling for an hour and be like, oh, well, I still got later to do this. I still got later to do that because I had 24 hours in a day. Well, now I'm working a full-time job. I'm working 40 hours in a week, but I still pump out 3 videos a week. I still try to pump out good content. I still try to improve my content and read books and podcasts and all this other stuff to make sure my content is good. So with that, I don't have as much time to do the things that I did before that necessarily weren't good for me. So now I've had to create boundaries. And now, even when I get home, I have more of a schedule. When I get home, I eat something, I take off, I do my hair, curl up my hair, and then I shower. And essentially, the way that works for me is if somebody was to call me in between me eating and me showering, I would tell them, hey, if it's an emergency, hey, we could talk, but if it's not, can I talk to you later? I created a boundary around that time period. I created a boundary that when I get out of the shower, that's time for me to, I wrote it in my, I write it in my planner. Either I have to read, either I have to edit content, whatever I have to do. And during that time period, I do not allow people to bother me. And bothering also means me scrolling on social media because there's things that I have to do. And if I don't do those things, it's going to interfere with something else. Because if I don't do the content editing, either my videos are going to be late, and I've been trying to post on Sunday, Wednesday, Friday consistently for months now. Also, it can mean something such as maybe I got to go to sleep a little bit later because it's like I'm telling myself I have to do this thing tonight, but I'm on the phone, but I'm scrolling on social media and I wasted 45 minutes. I wasted an hour. I wasted my focus, which means I probably have to wake up a little bit later. So that means my whole next day is messed up because now I don't even have the same amount of time in the morning that I told myself I had because I was wasting my night doing something else. So now my boundaries have something behind them. It has a little push behind them. It has essentially a brick behind it that you can't penetrate. Why? Because I know if I do not create a boundary around this time period, if I do not create a boundary around this thing, I'm not going to be able to do the things that I want to do. I want to grow on social media. I want to go back into, building on social media and building on YouTube and creating good content. So if I want to do those things that I truly value, I have to create boundaries around things that I don't value. And I realized I didn't have a good relationship with myself because I didn't really have boundaries. And even though I did try to create them, it was a thing of me not really knowing why I was doing that thing. So it was so easy to push them out the way. Like I said, somebody will call me, I'm on the phone. Oh, I can just do this thing later. Oh, I can just do this. I can just do that. But now that my time is very specific, I know, listen, sometimes it's down to the 5 minutes. It's like I only have 5 minutes in between this and in between this. I have to do what I have to do because if I don't do what I have to do, I can't do what I want to do. And it's very imperative for me to do what I want to do as well. So that's one thing I had to realize with myself. I didn't have a good relationship with myself because I didn't have boundaries around doing certain things. I was willing to go certain places. Maybe I didn't really want to go. But why? Because I didn't have a reason why to myself, right? It's so easy to tell somebody, oh, I'm really, I kind of don't really want to go. And of course, everybody's like, oh, well, why don't you want to go? And now you're trying to think of a million and one reasons. Oh, because you don't even know what to say. You're just trying to think of something that sounds good. But if you have a why behind your boundaries and you do things, it's so easy for you not only sometimes not even explain yourself no more. Because I feel like I don't even really explain myself no more because I know my why. So I don't have to explain it to somebody else. But also backing it so that you know you're not going to flip. Because that's another thing too. Sometimes our boundaries are either easily swayed and flip. We go into a situation saying, I'm not going to do this. We go into a situation saying, I'm not going to do that. And then by the end of the day, end of the night, end of the situation, we did some of the things we said we weren't going to do. Why? Because you didn't have boundaries around those things. Why? Because you truly don't know why you're not doing those things. And that usually means you don't have a good relationship with yourself. And it doesn't mean you have to be specifically like me. You have to be time bound to things. Boundaries are also what you are willing to sometimes do for people. Boundaries are also what you are willing sometimes to put yourself through. But if you don't build that relationship with yourself, as far as your why, you're not going to have any boundaries. People are constantly going to sometimes use and abuse you in so many ways simply because you can't say no, simply because you can't come to terms with the fact of why you don't want to do this thing. You know in your heart it doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel wrong. I mean, it doesn't feel, good, it feels wrong, or you just don't feel like it. But if we don't have a why, it's so easy for us to do these things because we just assume that we're just going to go off of other people. Well, they did it. Well, they're okay with it. So that's fine. No, it's fine for them, but not for the life that you want for yourself. But do you even know the difference between them and you? Probably not, because you don't know your why, and it's because you do not have a relationship with yourself. So that's another thing I had to start doing to build a relationship with myself, is building boundaries. So now now I also use it as a launching pad. Now even when it comes to other things, it's helped me, make boundaries on other things or stand up for myself more, just do things more for myself, because now I'm intentional with my time, I'm intentional with myself, and I put myself first. So even some of the things I used to dwell on before, like, oh, should I say this? Or I don't know how this person gonna feel. I don't know how that person gonna feel. Listen, if this thought process cuts into me doing what I have to do, hey, can you do this? Hey, can it? Before, it'd be stuff I would dwell on. I would think about, oh, but I don't want this person to feel this way and feel. I don't even have the brain capacity to do that anymore. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, because I'm so focused. I have so much intent with what I do nowadays that if it's taking away from my intent, if it's taking away from how I truly want to live my life and what I truly want to do, I can't allow that thing. So I have to stand up for myself. I have to put myself first. Because if I don't put myself first, then that means I'm putting other first. So I say all that to say you need to create boundaries. And the final thing you need to do to build a good relationship with yourself is eat healthy. And I know some people are going to be like, girl, I know you did not just tell me what every other girl going to tell me on a glow up video, want to build relationship. But there's a reason behind it. And I think some people don't think about it like this. But I always tell people, think of your body as a machine, similar to a car, right? Who do you think, now don't get me wrong, we all got memories with our cars and experiences that we'll never forget. But who do you think would value their car more? Who do you think would care about their car more? The person whose car always runs smooth. Soon as they start their car can start within 2 to 3 minutes, get them from A to B. They never have to worry about their car shutting down on them. They never have to worry about their car, having issues and having problems. That person, or the person who has to wait 15 minutes in the morning for their car to warm up. That person who low-key roll by stop signs because they scared if they stop their car might stop. The person who, you know what I'm saying? Who do you think has a better relationship, if you will, with your car? I get it. We all love our car. Like I said, we've been through experiences. But probably the person who car does what the car is supposed to do. It gets them from A to B. Who do you think, if I was to tell this person, hey, you got to drive an hour away for this job interview? Who do you think is more likely to have confidence in their car being able to do it? Who do you think is even more likely to go, if we're being honest? The person whose car is smooth, because they're like, oh, 1 hour? Oh, my car is good. My car always runs smooth. The person whose car could barely stop at a stop sign, barely stop at a stoplight, they're like, I really want this job interview, but I don't think that, my car will be able to make it. And I don't know if my car. Think about that with your life. When you are trying to do things differently, whether it's waking up early in the morning, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's starting a business, whatever the case may be, a lot of times the reason why you can't do it is because your machine can't do it. Your car cannot make it there. And you know your car cannot make it there, whether you realize it or not. Some people are living in the car that rolls through the stop signs and they wonder why they can't do certain things. It's because your body physically can't do it. Now I've talked about this on a video, my series that I have, 6 things I stopped doing to live a happier life. I talked about how I realized I was deficient in a lot of vitamins. Go get your your checkups from your doctors and get your blood work. I realized I was deficient in a lot of vitamins and things, specifically iron and vitamin D, and those things would lead me to be more tired in the morning. So what did I do? I got an iron supplement. If you are anemic, get an iron supplement with vitamin C in it because it helps it disperse better, and also vitamin D. And I started ingesting things more so with vitamin C and vitamin D. And it's helped me wake up earlier. And waking up earlier has helped me create content earlier, whatever, lead to a fraction of things. It's also helped me get better sleep. Sleep was something that I struggled with, oftentimes waking up with my sleep, and it was because my body was not in a healthy state. So even eating healthier has helped me sleep better. Eating healthier and prioritizing, things that I'm deficient in has helped me wake up better. It's helped me essentially do more at the gym and honestly just be better. I'm able to, wake up in the morning, do what I have to do content wise, whatever that may be, go to work for 8 hours, come home and do what I have to do content wise. Why? Because my body is constantly fueled. If I did not properly fuel my body and eat healthy, I promise y'all I would not be able to do what I'm doing now. And so many people think that they can't do what they can do. So many people think that they have a cap on what they can do. Oh, I can't do this because I'm tired. Oh, I can't do this because I don't have energy. No, you can't do that thing because you don't prioritize fruits and vegetables. No, you can't do that thing because you're always eating fast food and your body is literally tired. Your body is literally depleting. It can't do that for you. And so one of the things I think you need to realize, building a better relationship with yourself comes with action. A lot of the things that I said before, you have to do those things through action to prove yourself. But at the foundation of your action, the body, the vessel, the machine needs to be able to do these things. And if it's not taken care of properly, it's not going to be able to do these things. And the thing that gets people is you might not notice it this year. You might not notice it next year. You may not notice it this week or next week. Some of the things take time to kick in. Some of the things are more so very fast, maybe like the next day having a hangover or, food poisoning or something like that. But certain things, it takes 3-4 years down the line of you being like, oh, I'm tired, or oh, I have health issues, or oh, there's something going on with me. And so one of the things I can tell people at the root of all of these things, like all the things that I mentioned, a lot of people cannot do them physically because they're eating unhealthy. You don't even, like, I don't even think people understand the connection between your gut and your brain. There's a connection between the two. And individuals who do not eat healthy, individuals who are constantly eating, overly processed things, fatty things, all those things, they're more likely to even have brain fog. Like a lot of y'all don't even know y'all have brain fog. That's why you can't think of nothing. You think it's you. You think it's something wrong with you. You think your brain just can't do this. It can't. No, your brain literally is foggy because there's a gut to brain connection. And so when you are not taking care of what you are eating, what you are consuming, those things start consuming you. And it's not just in your gut. You're not just going to see it, when you're looking at yourself naked outside the shower. It's also in your brain. It's also in your energy. It's also in you. And so one of the things I feel like has helped me build a better relationship with myself is this year I prioritize being healthier. And I'm not saying every single day you got to eat a salad and every single day you have to da da da. There are days where I slip up a bit too, but I think about an 80-20 rule. 80% of the time you should be consciously, intentionally ingesting things healthy. 80% of the time you should be aware of the things that you are eating. And then 20% of the time, you could just live life. Like, I'm not telling y'all to be on the health track and don't eat no good food and don't. No. But if you want to be able to eat those good foods happily, if you want to be able to eat those good foods and be in shape, if you want to be able to essentially do all the things that you want to do on a day-to-day basis, it's very imperative that you eat healthy, you figure out what you are deficient in, and you help yourself do those things, sometimes such as supplements, sometimes just changing your diet. But I think at the foundation of everything that I said today, it's eating healthy. It's making sure the machine can run. So the machine can allow you to journal. So the machine can allow you to do the work you have to do, that you have to set the boundaries around. So the machine can allow you, to do the self-care. Because a lot of times we can't do those things because the machine just is not at optimal health, similar to the car. So thank y'all so much for watching this video. I did create a whole video about building a relationship with yourself. Was the most recent video that I uploaded, and so check that one out. I wanted to just do simple steps because that video did do pretty well. So I just wanted to give y'all just a few simple steps that I do to essentially help me build a better relationship with myself. Like I said before, I come out with new videos every Sunday, Wednesday, Friday. So don't forget to check that out, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if y'all want this to be a little series similar to how I do the 6 things I stopped doing to make me happier series, or 6 things I stopped doing to live a happier life, better life series, comment that below and I possibly can make this a series as well. So thank y'all and have a great one.